The merchant stand. The crimson dust of Kairos swirled through Elena's trading post as the morning sun cast long shadows across the frontier settlement. She wiped perspiration from her brow, adjusting the worn leather gloves that protected her hands as she arranged the day's inventory. Rare minerals from the deep mines, preserved foods from the agricultural domes, and salvaged technology from derelict ships, everything a colonist might need to survive on the edge of known space. The brass bell above her door chimed softly as a figure entered, silhouetted against the harsh morning light. Elena looked up to see a woman of striking beauty, with auburn hair that seemed to catch fire in the sunlight and eyes the color of deep ocean waters. Her clothing was simple but well-made, the kind worn by successful traders who traveled between worlds. "Welcome to Hale's trading post," Elena said, setting down a crate of crystal fragments. "What can I help you find today?" The stranger approached with fluid grace, her gaze sweeping across the displayed goods with keen interest. "I'm looking for resonance crystals," she said, her voice carrying an accent Elena couldn't quite place. "The blue variety, specifically. I've heard you have the finest selection in this sector." Elena felt a flutter of excitement. Blue resonance crystals were among her most valuable items, and she rarely found buyers who could afford them. "You have excellent taste." "I do have some specimens, though they don't come cheap." "Money is no object," the woman replied, producing a credit chip that gleamed with the telltale markers of significant wealth. "My name is Zara, and I represent certain collectors who value quality above all else." As Elena retrieved the crystals from their secured case, she found herself stealing glances at her customer. There was something captivating about Zara, the way she moved with predatory grace, how her eyes seemed to hold depths of knowledge far beyond her apparent years. When their fingers brushed as Elena handed over the first crystal, a shock of warmth traveled up her arm. "These are magnificent," Zara breathed, holding the crystal up to catch the light. The blue depths seemed to pulse with inner fire, casting dancing reflections across her face. "Your reputation is well deserved, Elena. You know my name." Zara's lips curved in a mysterious smile. "Word travels fast in small settlements. The beautiful merchant with hair like spun gold and eyes like Earth's sky, you're quite famous among the trading circuits." Heat bloomed in Elena's cheeks at the compliment. It had been months since anyone had spoken to her with such warmth, let alone someone as intriguing as Zara. "You flatter me. Are you staying long on Kairos?" "That depends on many factors," Zara replied, her expression growing serious. "Tell me, what do you know of the tensions between the human colonies and the Draconian Empire?" Elena's blood chilled. The Draconian Empire, ruled by the mysterious Empress Thyra, had been expanding aggressively through this sector. Their technology was far advanced, their warriors fierce, and their intentions toward human settlements unclear. Enough to know it's dangerous to discuss such matters openly. Zara stepped closer, close enough that Elena could smell the exotic perfume she wore, something like night-blooming flowers and distant storms. "What if I told you that not everything you've heard about my people is true?" "Your people?" Elena whispered. For a moment, Zara's human facade flickered. Her eyes flashed with an inner light that was decidedly inhuman, and Elena caught a glimpse of scales along her neck before they faded back to smooth skin. "I am Zara of the Draconian worlds, daughter of stars and seeker of truth. And I have come here not as conqueror, but as one in desperate need of aid." Elena's hand instinctively moved toward the pulse weapon beneath her counter, but something in Zara's expression stopped her. There was vulnerability there, a loneliness that resonated with Elena's own isolated existence on the frontier. "Why should I trust you?" Elena asked, though her voice lacked conviction. Zara's transformation completed in reverse, her alien features melting back into human form. "Because you are the only one who can help me find what I seek, and because your world depends on it. The Empress Thyra seeks something hidden on this world, something that could change the balance of power forever. I must find it first." The crystal in Elena's hand pulsed with sudden warmth, and she realized that whatever game was being played across the stars, she had just become a player. As she looked into Zara's eyes, now fully human but still holding depths of alien wisdom, she felt the first stirrings of something that could either save them both or destroy everything she held dear. Outside, the wind picked up, carrying with it the scent of approaching storms and the distant rumble of ships in the upper atmosphere. Change was coming to Kairos, and Elena suspected her quiet life as a frontier merchant was about to end forever. The Council's decree. The settlement's communication array crackled to life just after dawn, filling Elena's trading post with the urgent tone that meant official colonial authority business. She exchanged a worried glance with Zara, who had spent the night in the small apartment above the shop after their revelations the previous evening. Elena. Marcus burst through the door without his usual courtesy knock, his military uniform dusty from a hard ride. Her younger brother's face was grim, carrying the weight of bad news. We need to talk. Now. Zara stepped smoothly behind a display case, her alien features already shifting to perfect human camouflage. Elena's heart raced as she faced her brother, hoping her expression revealed nothing of the night's intimate conversations with her otherworldly guest. The Council has issued new directives, Marcus continued, pulling out a data pad. Effective immediately, all settlements are to report any suspicious alien activity. There's a bounty, 50,000 credits for information leading to the capture of draconian infiltrators. Elena's mouth went dry. Infiltrators? Intelligence suggests they're sending advanced scouts to prepare for invasion. Shapeshifters who can pass as human. Marcus's eyes swept the shop with professional thoroughness. Have you noticed anything unusual? Any customers asking strange questions or paying with untraceable credits? Before Elena could answer, Zara emerged from behind the display case, her performance of startled innocence flawless. Invasion? How terrible. I do hope the authorities catch these dangerous aliens soon. Marcus studied Zara with the careful attention of a trained soldier. I don't believe we've met. Marcus Hale, Colonial Defense Corps. Zara Blackwood, she replied smoothly, extending her hand. I'm a crystal trader from the Centauri routes. Your sister has been most helpful. As they shook hands, Elena noticed Marcus's slight wince. Zara's grip was stronger than any human woman's should be, but she released him quickly enough that he might dismiss it as imagination. Well, Miss Blackwood, I'd advise against traveling the outer routes right now. Things are getting dangerous out there. Marcus turned back to Elena. I'm posting a security detail here for the next few days. This trading post is too valuable to risk. After Marcus left to coordinate patrols, Elena found Zara standing at the window, watching the soldiers take positions around the settlement. The afternoon light caught the subtle iridescence in her hair that only Elena seemed able to see. You could have turned me in, Zara said softly. The bounty would set you up for life. Elena moved to stand beside her, their shoulders almost touching. Blood money has never appealed to me. Even when it's alien blood. Especially then. Elena turned to face her fully. Last night, when you showed me your true form. I've never seen anything so beautiful. Zara's breath caught. Her carefully maintained human facade flickered, revealing glimpses of the luminescent scales that traced delicate patterns across her skin. My people believe that beauty is found in truth, not disguise. But truth can be dangerous. So can beauty, Elena whispered, reaching up to trace the air just above Zara's cheek, not quite touching but close enough to feel the warmth radiating from her skin. The moment stretched between them, charged with possibility and peril, until urgent shouts from outside broke the spell. Through the window, they watched as military transports descended from the sky, their hulls bearing the insignia of the Draconian Empire. They found me, Zara breathed, her form beginning the rapid shift to her natural appearance. Scales rippled across her skin like liquid starlight, and her eyes blazed with inner fire. Elena grasped her hand without hesitation. The storage caves behind the settlement. I can get you there unseen. As they prepared to flee, Elena caught sight of her reflection in the shop window, a human woman whose life had been turned upside down in mere hours, standing hand in hand with an alien who might be her salvation or her doom. But as Zara's fingers intertwined with hers, cool and strong and completely right, Elena realized she had already made her choice. The sound of approaching footsteps echoed outside as they slipped toward the back door. Whatever came next, they would face it together. "Elena," Zara whispered as they paused at the threshold. "There's something else you should know about why I'm really here. The Empress isn't just seeking conquest, she's seeking her sister. And that sister, is me." The Hunter's Pursuit. Kale Voss moved through the shadowed corridors of his ship like a predator born to the hunt. The veteran bounty hunter's scarred hands danced across holographic displays, tracking energy signatures and bio-readings across the surface of Kairos. His cybernetic eye whirred softly as it processed data streams, searching for the telltale anomalies that would reveal a draconian's presence. "Target acquired," he muttered to himself, noting the subtle energy fluctuations emanating from Hale's trading post. 30 years of hunting dangerous quarry had taught him to trust his instincts, and every instinct screamed that his prey was close. In the research laboratory hidden beneath the settlement's medical center, Dr. Lydia Chen worked frantically to prepare an escape route. Her fingers flew over quantum encryption algorithms while her personal AI monitored colonial authority communications. As one of the few humans who understood the true complexity of interspecies politics, she knew that the current crisis was about far more than simple invasion fears. "Elena, you need to listen carefully," Lydia's voice crackled through the secured comm channel. "I've analyzed the Imperial ship's approach vectors. They're not here for conquest, this is a recovery mission. Someone very important wants Zara alive." In the crystalline caves behind the settlement, Elena pressed closer to Zara as they navigated the narrow passages by the light of bioluminescent crystals. The draconian woman's natural form was even more striking in the cave's ethereal glow, her scales shifting color with her emotions, currently a deep purple that spoke of fear and determination. "My sister wasn't always an empress," Zara explained as they moved deeper underground. "Once, she was just Thyra, the dreamer who believed our peoples could coexist. The crown changed her, or perhaps revealed what was always there." Elena stumbled slightly on the uneven ground, and Zara's strong arms caught her instantly. The contact sent warmth spreading through Elena's body, and she found herself leaning into the embrace longer than strictly necessary. "What changed between you?" Elena asked, her voice barely above a whisper. "I fell in love with a human," Zara replied, her scales shimmering to silver, the color of old pain. "A starship captain named David Chen. Thyra saw it as betrayal of everything our people stood for." "Chen." Elena's eyes widened. Dr. Chen mentioned that name. He was her brother. The pieces began falling into place as they reached a wider chamber filled with ancient crystal formations. Zara's connection to the human colonies ran deeper than Elena had imagined, and the current crisis was as much personal as political. Above ground, Kale's thermal scanners detected movement in the cave system. He adjusted his plasma rifle's settings, calibrating for draconian physiology. The bounty on this particular target was substantial enough to buy him a small moon, but something about this hunt felt different. "Personal. Contact established," he reported to his handler. "Initiating capture protocol." But as he prepared to descend into the caves, a new presence registered on his sensors, multiple draconian signatures approaching fast from orbit. The Empress had arrived. In the depths below, Zara suddenly stiffened, her head tilting as if listening to sounds only she could hear. "She's here," she whispered, terror and longing warring in her voice. "My sister has come." Elena took Zara's face in her hands, forcing their eyes to meet. "Whatever happens, know that these last 2 days, they've been the most alive I've felt in years." Zara's response was to close the distance between them, pressing her lips to Elena's in a kiss that tasted of starlight and promise. Elena felt the gentle scratch of fangs against her lips, inhaled the exotic scent of Zara's skin, and knew that whatever the cost, she would pay it to keep this woman safe. When they broke apart, Zara's scales had shifted to brilliant gold, the color of hope. "We're going to survive this," Elena said with fierce conviction. "And when we do, I want to hear every story you have about the stars." Above them, the sound of approaching footsteps echoed through the cave system, while overhead, the shadow of an Imperial cruiser blotted out the sun. The hunt was reaching its climax, but Elena had faith in something stronger than weapons or politics. She had faith in the power of two hearts that had found each other across the vast darkness of space. Thomas Hale had built his life on the principle that family came first, before politics, before profit, before everything else that might tear a person apart on the frontier. So when he received the encrypted message from Dr. Chen revealing his daughter's involvement with the alien fugitive, his world shifted on its axis. The weathered patriarch stood in his study, surrounded by 3 decades of colonial records and family photographs, holding a data pad that contained information he wished he'd never learned. Through his window, he could see the Imperial Draconian cruiser hanging in the atmosphere like a dark omen, its weapons trained on his settlement. "Commander Voss," he spoke into his secure comm unit. "We need to meet. It's about my daughter." An hour later, Thomas found himself face to face with the Colonial Authority's chief military strategist in the settlement's command bunker. Commander Sarah Voss was a woman who understood the weight of impossible decisions, her steel-gray hair pulled back severely and her uniform bearing the decorations of countless border conflicts. "Your daughter has compromised our entire operation," Voss began without preamble. "The alien she's harboring isn't just any Draconian, she's the Empress's sister, and possibly the key to preventing a war that would devastate this entire sector." Thomas felt his world narrow to a single point of clarity. "Explain." Voss activated a holographic display showing intelligence reports and diplomatic communications. "The Draconian Empire is fracturing. There are those who support the Empress's aggressive expansion, and those who remember the old ways of peaceful coexistence. Zara represents the latter faction, and her capture or death could trigger the very war we're trying to avoid. And my daughter is in love with our only hope for peace." The words hit Thomas like a physical blow. Elena, his bright, stubborn daughter who had inherited her mother's compassion and his own fierce loyalty, was caught in the center of an interstellar crisis. In the crystal caves below, Elena and Zara pressed deeper into the mountain's heart as Kale's pursuit grew closer. The bounty hunter's scanner pings echoed off the cavern walls like mechanical heartbeats, each one nearer than the last. "There's something you should know about your father," Zara said as they navigated a particularly treacherous passage. Before the current tensions began, he and several other colonial leaders were in communication with moderate Draconian factions. "He's not the simple merchant you think he is." Elena paused, considering this revelation. Her father had always been protective of certain aspects of his past, claiming it was just boring colonial administration. "What are you saying?" "I'm saying he might be our only way out of this." Zara's scales had shifted to a pattern of deep blue and silver, indicating complex emotions Elena was learning to read. "My people have great respect for fathers who protect their children, regardless of species." Above ground, Thomas made his decision with the same calm determination that had served him through decades of frontier life. He walked out of the command bunker and across the settlement's main square, past nervous colonists peering through windows and soldiers checking weapons, until he stood directly beneath the Imperial cruiser. "Empress Thyra," he called out, his voice carrying across the silent settlement. "I am Thomas Hale, leader of the Kairos colony. I request parley under the old codes." The massive ship's response was immediate, a beam of golden light that deposited the Empress herself on the dusty ground before him. Thyra was magnificent and terrible, her scales the color of molten metal and her presence radiating authority that made nearby humans step back involuntarily. "You dare invoke the old codes, human?" "I invoke them as a father," Thomas replied steadily. "You seek your sister. I protect my daughter. We have common ground." In the caves below, Zara suddenly stopped moving, her enhanced hearing picking up the conversation above. "No," she whispered. "He doesn't understand what he's risking." But Elena understood her father better than anyone. Thomas Hale was a man who had spent his life building bridges, between feuding colonists, between settlers and corporations, between different species seeking common ground on frontier worlds. If anyone could find a path through this crisis, it would be him. Kale's scanner pinged again, much closer now. The hunter was perhaps minutes away from finding them. But as Elena looked into Zara's luminous eyes, she felt a strange peace settle over her. Whatever happened next, they had found something real in the midst of chaos, love that transcended species, politics, and fear. "Trust him," Elena whispered, taking Zara's hand. "Trust my father to find a way." Above them, two figures stood in the afternoon sun, a human father and an alien empress, each carrying the weight of their people's future, each seeking to protect what they loved most in a universe that seemed determined to tear such bonds apart. The confrontation that would determine the fate of three worlds began with the quiet words of a human father standing beneath an alien warship. Thomas Hale looked up at Empress Thyra, her magnificent form radiating power and barely contained fury, and spoke with the calm voice that had settled 1,000 colonial disputes. "Your Majesty, I have something that belongs to you, and you have something that belongs to me. Perhaps we can find common ground." Thyra's scales shifted through patterns of anger and curiosity. "You speak boldly for a creature whose world I could glass from orbit. And yet you haven't," Thomas observed. "Because destroying my world won't bring your sister home, any more than my turning her over to your hunters would protect my daughter." As if summoned by his words, Elena and Zara emerged from the cave system, followed closely by a frustrated but resigned Kale Voss. Dr. Chen appeared from another direction, her medical scanner detecting the subtle biorhythms that indicated high stress in both human and draconian physiology. Marcus Hale materialized with a squad of colonial marines, weapons lowered but ready. The scene took on the quality of a standoff, with multiple factions facing each other across the dusty ground of the settlement square. Elena walked directly to her father's side, her hand clasped firmly in Zara's. The draconian woman had allowed her true form to show, scales like liquid starlight, eyes that held the depth of ancient wisdom, and a bearing that spoke of royal blood despite her exile. "Hello, sister," Zara said softly. Thyra's response was a sound somewhere between a growl and a sob. "You left us. You abandoned your people for this." Her gesture encompassed not just the human settlement but the entire concept of cross-species affection. "I found love where you could only see weakness," Zara replied. "Just as you chose power where I saw possibility." Commander Voss stepped forward, her tactical mind recognizing the moment when diplomacy mattered more than firepower. "Your Majesty, the colonial authorities are prepared to discuss a formal peace treaty. Your sister has information about human settlements that could prove valuable in establishing trade relationships rather than conquest." But Thyra's attention was fixed on her sister and the human woman whose fingers were intertwined with Zara's. "You would choose this creature over your own blood?" "I choose love over fear," Elena said, surprising everyone including herself with her steady voice. "I choose to believe that the universe is big enough for all of us to find happiness without destroying each other." Kale, his bounty hunter's instincts recognizing a shift in the political wind, quietly powered down his weapons. Dr. Chen stepped forward with data pads containing decades of research on draconian human compatibility, both biological and cultural. The moment stretched taut between hope and catastrophe, with the fate of three species hanging on the decision of an alien empress who had traveled across the galaxy to reclaim a sister she both loved and resented. Thomas Hale took one step forward, just one, and spoke the words that would echo through diplomatic history for generations to come. "Your Majesty," he said quietly, "let me tell you about the day my daughter was born, and what it taught me about love that transcends all boundaries." And then, in the voice he had used to soothe Elena's childhood nightmares and celebrate her triumphs, he spoke of the moment he first held his daughter and realized that love was not about possession or control, but about wanting happiness for someone even when that happiness led them away from you. Thyra listened, her scales gradually shifting from the deep red of anger to the soft blue of contemplation. As Thomas spoke of watching Elena grow into her own person, of the pride he felt in her courage even when it terrified him, something fundamental changed in the Empress's expression. "Not one step more," Thomas concluded, his voice barely above a whisper. "That's what I told myself when Elena chose her own path. Not one step more toward controlling her life, toward demanding she be what I needed instead of who she was." Love means knowing when to step back. Thyra's scales shimmered through a cascade of colors: memory, pain, recognition, and finally, the deep gold of acceptance. She looked at her sister, really looked at her, and saw not betrayal but growth. The old treaties spoke of binding ceremonies between species, Thyra said finally. If such a bond were to be formally recognized, it would require witnesses from both peoples, Zara finished, hope lighting her features. And the blessing of both families. Elena felt tears streaming down her face as she realized what was being offered. Not just acceptance, but celebration. Not just tolerance, but joy. 6 months later, the first interspecies binding ceremony in galactic history took place on Kairos, with Thomas Hale walking his daughter down an aisle lined with both human flowers and draconian light crystals. Empress Thyra served as her sister's attendant, her scales now permanently marked with the silver patterns that indicated a royal blessing. As Elena and Zara exchanged vows that had been written in both languages, promising to build bridges between worlds, Thomas smiled with the satisfaction of a man who had kept his greatest promise, to love his daughter enough to let her choose her own path among the stars. The universe, it turned out, was indeed big enough for love to flourish in all its magnificent, impossible forms.